Okay, so good afternoon. Excited to be here. Yes, hi Shanti, nice to see you. So the bad relationship partner cycle, what this is. It's not you. It's what I call the love map or love equation. I may also use some other terms like reference point or reference object, attachment style, or just good old what I learned when I was growing up. Alright, so relationships and what we're attracted to is a complex concept. There's a lot that can go into this, right? So I try to keep it simple. The simplicity is not to take away from the complexity, but it's to kind of narrow it down to a place where you can start from and start restructuring how you look at yourself and your relationships. Try to determine where you're at with things. So I don't typically, I'm a specialist in codependency and narcissistic abuse, and since that's a relating style relationship in general comes with this. And so that's my background with it. Let me see if I can get my thoughts straight here. So you have a pattern of picking, let me scroll up. Man, today I'm just a little off for some reason. Maybe it's the moon. I don't know. All right, so you got a pattern of picking partners that end up being bad for you. They don't care about you. They're not receptive to you. They're not, well, they treat you badly. They ignore you. They gaslight you. They physically attack you. They emotionally attack you. They put you down, that kind of thing. You have this repeating pattern going on. Really, really important to realize that this isn't your fault. A lot of times when I'm working with clients and students that have this pattern in their life, and I've had it in my own, we discover that we're really picking an amalgam, a blending of our mom and our father. This experience that we had with them, or how we saw them communicate and interact, and how we communicated and interacted with them. I call that your love map. This is where we learned what attachment feels like, what bonding feels like, what love feels like. And if we've had codependent parents, narcissistic parents, negligent, avoidant, non-engaged parents, our love map includes some really toxic elements. And this love map, there's 4 specific elements that tend to show up in this, is that abuse and love can coexist, i.e., it's a, love and abuse can sometimes happen in the same thing. Like, it's okay to be abused because they love me. They're just having a bad day or they have trauma or something. So this is a normalization of abuse with love. And that creates an experience called fear love. And this is also known as trauma bonding or love addiction. So we get into that cycle there. Second component with this really negligent experience we have with our parents, or even with our first onset of relationships with our peers, is that our value, our sense of worth is externalized. It's in them. It's rooted in their approval or their rejection. Call this external orientation. And this trains our brain to seek value through others and how they feel about us. This leaves us deeply vulnerable to the experience being manipulated, especially through love bombing. I wonder why love bombing creates a euphoria in your life, and why you kind of get that weird high and that kind of buzz that shows up when people start giving you praise or attention or verbal affirmations. It's because of this. That's what's going on there. Is your sense of value, which is anchored in them currently, is being filled. It's being nurtured by their experience. Hi, Martina. And so, of course, we get euphoric. Finally, someone's seeing us. Someone is caring about us. They like us. They love us, right? We're finally seen. We're finally valued. So this is really euphoric for us because what it's doing is it's feeding, hey Joy, it's feeding the the unmet needs of self. It's feeding our sense of value, our sense of identity. It's giving us what we've been starving for since our childhood, okay? So we get really swept up in this. We get swept off our feet and we go into a little euphoria in the la-la land, and colors are brighter and everything's magical. And all the while this is going on, our little gut is going, something's off. Something's wrong. Something's not on target here. There's this anxiety we have when we're around this person. There's this discomfort emerging. Even though they're giving us all this grandiose praise and stuff, there's something off. We're not sure what's happening. We're confused. They're doing things that throw us off. They kind of push us off center. We're like, sure, I don't know what that means. And we start to feel anxious. But we confuse this anxiety with insecurity. We think, oh, I'm just being anxious because I've been through trauma, or I've been through abuse, or you know, I'm not trusting, or there's something, you know, I've got trust issues, things like that. Very, very important component here, because this is where we're starting to tune out a very important signal. Okay, anxiety is a signal that something is off. Now, it could be our programming, it could be our past, but it could also be them, right? And we've got to learn how to determine or discern between those two things in order to make sure we're not sabotaging a healthy opportunity. Well, if you're being love bombed and you're going into this euphoria, it's going to be darn hard to be able to even tune into the sense that something is off, okay? The next component here is that you have what's called injured attachment. If you grew up in a narcissistic, codependent dynamic with your parents, your sense of attachment is either avoidant, fearful, or anxious. You're going to chase after them. Chase, chase, chase. And within this experience of the attachment, you learned a specific kind of relationship that I call the consumer supply relationship. I even have a little image of it here for you. There's the consumer supply relationship. Ooh, my hand goes in front of it. So, the consumer supply relationship, you get love bombed. The consumer comes in. The consumer would typically be the narcissist, the abuser, the toxic person. They love bomb you. This is where you get all euphoric because you're the supply. They want something from you. And then they start to devalue you, put you down, criticize you, make you feel, you know, like you're not enough, you're too much, you're too sensitive. Why can't you just be happy with what you get? That kind of thing. This makes you feel worthless. It makes you feel like there's something wrong with you. So you go into a cycle of perfectionism, trying to become what you think they want you to be so that they'll keep you. And then they discard you. They throw you away. They're done, right? This little dynamic right here taught you to chase love, to chase value. This is what keeps you going back to people, giving them chances over and over. This is what gets you creating that undue tolerance, guys. That's like, well, he was only mean that one time. He only called me that name a few times this morning. You know, it was only 12 times yesterday and 7 times the time before that. But he does all these nice things too, Marshall. He buys me flowers and he takes me on trips. But usually only after I've cried or complained or we had a big fight and I'm threatened to leave or I'm pulling away. Interesting, right? Starting to see a cycle. Is any of this ringing a bell here? Any of this landing? Because that's what you learned with your parents. You would go to your parents with a want or a need, or you wanted to share some love with them, and they'd push you away. They'd be like, I don't want this. You're too needy. What? Go figure it out yourself. Why are you so selfish? Can't you see I'm doing something here? And then you leave. You try to figure it out yourself. You try to get rid of those feelings. You try to fix your feelings. You try to get rid of your needs or your wants. But you have needs and wants because you're human and it's normal. Needs and wants are a means of connection and experience together, so there's nothing wrong with you. But you think that's how love works. You think love is chase. You think love has fear with it. You think that it's okay that they're doing these things. That's just how it is. That's the problem, guys. This is where you learned what love was for you. But you got to know what the real world looks like and if you're going to escape this. So in my discombobulated video today, I'm got this for you. We're going to compare this cycle, the narcissistic or the consumer supply relationship cycle, also known as the narcissistic abuse cycle, with this little puppy healthy relating cycle. Guys, if you're choosing people in your relationships that don't show up with respect for themselves and for you, that don't play, I wonder if I could point at it. Ooh, play. Don't play safely, with consent, with interest and concern about your well-being. They don't own their shit. They don't take accountability. They don't build trust and have integrity, and they don't have safe conflict where you guys can discuss sensitive things. They're not generous. They don't give you the benefit of the doubt. You're giving it to them, but they're like, you did that deliberately. I literally had a person tell me that their parent thought they got sick deliberately and went to the ER with the flu deliberately. They planned it. That's absurd. So, yeah, generosity. Do they think warmly of you? If you make a mistake, they're like, oh yeah, that really hurt, but I get it too. They don't sit there and go, you planned that. That was deliberate. You know, what are you getting at here? They're not implying agenda and evil things on your part. Do they grow? Now, I don't think my finger, it won't show up there. But do they grow? Do they go out and learn new things? Do they learn new skills? Do they take adventure in their lives? You know, are they responsible? Are they receptive to feedback? Do they generate connection through platonic affection, not just sex, guys? Because I'll tell you, sometimes it's a weird thing with this cycle, with the consumer supply cycle, this little puppy. Sex is funny because it's either great or it's shit. I asked some clients, it's like, it's the best I've ever had. And other clients are like, oh, dear God, no. So, safe platonic affection, attentive, warm, emotionally engaged sex. They want to spend time with you because you exist, not because of the benefits they get from you. You feel safe. You feel safe. They behave in safe ways. Guys, this is what a healthy person behaves like. They respond to your no with agreement. They're like, oh, okay, I get it. That's good. They accept it. They receive it. They allow it to be enough. Because, one, they respect you. Guys, the whole premise of a healthy relationship is based on the concept of I care about how you feel. Whereas the narcissistic supply, the consumer supply relationship, is based on what can I get from you. It's all about benefit versus connection. That makes sense right there. You need to understand this so that you can see the difference between what you're choosing and what you should be choosing, right? And here's the trick. The consumer supply relationship cycle is very fast. And codependents typically want to be in the middle of a relationship. They want a stable reference point. They want a stable, what's called stable object, so that they can just go on and be in the relationship, do their thing. They have a very low tolerance for the beginning of a relationship because it's uncertain to them. It's uncomfortable. They don't have a good relationship with uncertainty. They want certainty, they want definition, and so they escalate, or they allow relationship to escalate towards commitment way too soon, way prematurely. And that gets them stuck in this cycle. It's really appealing to a toxic person when they find someone that doesn't push against their boundary pushes, that doesn't push against their backhanded compliments, especially if they're in a covert narc, that doesn't push against their badgering, that doesn't say, they like people who say yes a lot. They don't like people who say no and stick to it because they can't get their supply, they can't manipulate them. This is making sense. Let me know in the comments below, because for some reason my mind and today it's just kind of, it's a little wampus today. So that's what they want. And so they plus The whole goal with a narcissistic person is to secure supply, and so they escalate commitment fast, while a codependent wants to be in the middle of a relationship. Fits really well. Oh, I found the person that completes me. I've been looking for you all my life. Oh my God, yes, let's get married. We've only known each other for 2 weeks. That kind of crap. Healthy relationships take time. They take experience. They're gradual. A healthy person's skeptical but open. They're curious. And as you should be. Now, there's this really interesting factor here between these two cycles that makes all the difference. In the consumer supply relationship cycle, if you remember a few minutes ago, I mentioned this concept of innate value. This externalized value is what I had referenced there, where your sense of value is attached to the other person's approval. So when they love bomb us, we become euphoric, right? Well, in the healthy relationship model, that person's value is anchored within them. I call it internalized value or innate value. When you know your value, when you be that value, then you're in tune with your voice and your vision. And with this combination of value, voice, and vision, you actually slow down the relationship experience because you're auditing the relationship. You're taking time to understand how you feel in this person's presence. You're watching for patterns of behavior. You're watching to see how they take accountability when you confront them on mistakes. You're watching how they communicate their complaints or concerns with you. You're watching for how this persists over a gradient of circumstances and experiences. You're taking your time to discover who this person is, rather than living from a fantasy that you create over here in the consumer supply relationship. Because the codependent, when they're getting love bombed, they create a fantasy about who this person is, and then they start feeding the consumer from that fantasy, and that gets them blind to the reality of who that is. But in the healthy relationship cycle, there's no fantasy. People are very sober about what's happening. They're very conscious about the decisions they're making. They confront problems. They confront challenges and differences. But they do it in a way that's mindful and attentive about their own values, their own priorities, and their emotional well-being, and the same in the other person. This is where the reciprocation is created between them. This is where trust is built and earned through this gentle process of coming in together and understanding each other. This is where that value, voice, and vision really, they're essential ingredients to it, because if you don't know and be your value, you will not know what your voice is, so you won't know what to say yes and no to. You won't know what your deal breakers are. You won't be able to identify when something's off because you won't be tuned into your body's innate awareness of what is on and off about things. You'll also, this is the fun part about vision. When you know your value and your voice, a vision emerges. And if you're dealing with a relationship model, codependents do this. They go, who, what? Okay? So I choose a who and I make them squish into my what. So I know what I want. I want somebody who will love me and we'll have lots of fun together. So I go out and find somebody and I squish them into it. I try to make people fit my desire. That's where we get into fixing and controlling and shaping people in the codependent spectrum. In my model, this healthy model, we're doing something different. I know what I want based on my value, voice, and vision. I know how I want that to behave like. I know what the actions are. I know what the words are. I know how it shows up in the real world. Then I go out into the world and I choose someone. Well, I go out in the world and I explore and discover people. And I see how they line up with the how and the what that I have. This is how we build healthy relating experiences. Hopefully the video is still functional on Facebook because it seems frozen to me. But here it's still recording. All right. That's why I base my dating system on the value, voice, and vision system I teach in the happiness strategy. Now, if you want more information on happiness strategy, we actually have some enrollment seats open for the automated semi-live version. You can click on the link below if you're on Facebook, and well, even above on Facebook, below on YouTube, and actually take the workshop on that, on the happiness strategy, on how we actually heal and address what's that relationship, the consumer supply relationship, and what's called the discard trauma. This sets you up to tune into and be your value, know your voice and your vision. And then from there, you can construct the relationship map, the love map that really aligns with your happiness. And then using the relationship map and the dating map that's part of the what's called, well, you get access to what's called Dating 101, which has that map for you with this bundle. And then you can go out and date and meet people who like you for who you are, and you like them for who you are. You're no longer coming from a traumatized, I call it unmatured state of identity and attachment, because it's not immature as in you're being childish. It's more like unmatured, so it's not really showing up complete. The value, voice, and vision system and the happiness strategy helps you mature in that and grow. So, yeah, man, I am just off today. I don't know what it is with me. But, yes, if you're struggling with a bad relationship cycle and you want to get to the healthy relationship cycle, then you need to take the workshop and enroll yourself in the happiness strategy, because once you're anchored back in your value, voice, and vision, you'll know exactly what you want, you'll know how it feels, and you'll be able to identify it when it shows up in your life. Because right now, you're sensitized to the toxic person because that's all you know, that's what's familiar to you. But with this system, you start to emerge into a completely different point of view, which connects you with healthy people. I've got over 24 marriages under my belt with this system, where people who never thought they would be loved for who they are being loved for who they are, just because of who they are. It's that simple. But those clients had to show up in their value, voice, and vision in order to receive and then keep the people who showed up from that energy. And this is how they did it. So if that's what you're looking for, I encourage you to take the workshop and then jump into the happiness strategy. Be looking forward to seeing you in that course. If you have any questions on it, just feel free to PM me. It's a 13-week course that takes you through retrieving and anchoring in your innate value, healing your trauma, tuning into and listening to your voice, and then embracing and receiving and then following your vision. So we do that over 13 weeks. You also get the Codependency Confidence System, which helps you resolve love addiction and the emotional trauma of narcissistic abuse, and then gives you the core skill sets you need in order to build boundaries, relationship connections, power, and shift your mindset, and all that good stuff. So you get that with the happiness strategy. So there you go, guys. I appreciate you showing up. I am sorry for being a little discombobulated today. I appreciate you. Remember that you're worth knowing, loving, and keeping. Go take that workshop. I'll post the link here in the comment in just a moment. Have a great day. Be safe, and I'll see you guys for tomorrow's training. I'm not sure what it'll be on, but it'll be on something awesome. Okay? Thank you, guys. Talk with you soon.